This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here, Realty One Group, Music City's owner and broker.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
And we want to remind everybody before we get going that this show is empowered by your questions. So please send all questions to questions@talkmusiccity.com. That's questions@talkmusiccity.com, or hashtag us at hashtag #TalkMusicCity.
Yes, and this also is a podcast, so please subscribe. You can call up any of these shows anytime and listen to them at your leisure. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music Podcasts, plus many other podcast platforms. And you can also watch the show on our YouTube channel and Facebook page. Simply search The Talk of Music City.
We are here, and it's Cinco de Mayo.
It is, it is. Yes, Cinco de Mayo. Where is my sombrero,
Where is your
Monty?
sombrero?
You're supposed to come
sorry.
prepared.
I know it. I really dropped the ball on that one. How time gets away. I can't believe it's May already.
I know. What do they say? April showers bring May flowers.
Yes, it's beautiful out there. Beautiful. Turning green. We got a guest tonight with us, and this show is going to be very cool because it's going to be all about home inspections, which everybody ought to know more about. And we have Mr. Anthony Clemens of Mr. Home Inspector on. Good to see you tonight, Anthony.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on to speak.
Got a lot of great questions, so much information we're going to be giving out today. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We love having you here on the Talk of Music City Real Estate, 5 o'clock every Sunday night. So thanks for putting down the what were you saying? What was the beer that we drink on this day? Corona or our margarita for 45 minutes so we can learn everything to do with home inspections. So love it.
I've been wanting to have Anthony on for a while because home inspections from our world, the real estate world, and certainly the homeowner world, when you are on the other end of that, is a huge topic. You know, I try to share with our agents and our clients that, you sell your home once through the selling process, and then you have to sell it again through the home inspection process. It's a really, really big deal. And it's so awesome to have a qualified inspector here with us who really knows what he's doing. I spoke to a lot of them before we chose one who would represent us, or certainly my business. And it was, I needed somebody who was extremely thorough, at the same time had good communication skills to tell the consumer, really, well, let's focus on this. These little things, not so important maybe, but let's focus on the things that matter most.
Absolutely. So, Anthony, share with us how you got the name Mr. Home Inspector.
Sure.
I love that.
Sure. Well, Mr. Home Inspector, it's very straightforward. I figured if somebody was Googling home inspections, eventually somewhere down the line, Mr. Home Inspector would come up. Yeah,
that's smart.
So 4 years you've had Mr. Home Inspector. Mm-hmm. Is that right? I love that. He's ex-military, so thank you so much for your service. And so excited to have, like you said, Monty, the home inspection process is sometimes for the seller could be, a little fearful or, hey, is there anything hidden that I didn't know about, right?
Right.
And, and for the buyer, what do we actually see? Don't judge a book by its cover. Hopefully everything's coming in A-okay, and then there could be some minor concerns there. Managing
the expectations on that is the biggest challenge because, Anthony has got to, I'm not trying to answer your questions for you, Anthony, here. We're going to get into some great frequently asked questions here on the topic, but you want to give somebody an overall viewpoint of the home, and you're going to list everything that's possibly wrong with that house because you're being paid to be a conduit of that information, and you don't want somebody upset with you because, well, what about this? So you mention everything, but not everything is covered. So that's the hard part from the real estate world, is managing those expectations. So I've always believed that someone has to believe the messenger before the message matters, and we know that your message matters because you're qualified to be a home inspector. So 4 years. How many inspections do you think you've done during that time? Just a ballpark.
I would probably estimate around 5,000.
Wow.
A little bit more, I would assume, from my previous employment. But also, along the lines of your expectations, sometimes when a buyer walks into our house, they forget about the love goggles they have on, instead of the beer goggles, since it's Cinco de Mayo. The love goggles, they put them on and they walk through our house, and of course it's beautiful. They get overwhelmed with how pretty and how big the house is. They forget about the small, fine, detailed things.
Right. And you help bring a magnifying glass to those things that matter most. Just even today, I was dealing with the situation, the results from Anthony doing a great job and seeing that, okay, there's some water intrusion in this basement, in this foundation. That's not good.
Yeah.
And it was a one-owner home, and the seller said, well, there's no way. My husband had this home built properly, and there's no way after 20 years that it hasn't given us any problems. We've never seen water in the basement or whatever. But then we had the expert come out, which Anthony had recommended as well, and just an independent third party, and they said, yeah, there is a significant issue here. There's movement here, and so that's why that's one of the many reasons why we want a good home inspector to walk into that house before you ever close on it.
Absolutely. And we were talking before too, sometimes do you inspect new construction as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's
actually one of our biggest ticket items.
Really?
So why would I hear this question all the time, Anthony, why would you get a brand new home inspected when it's brand spanking new and it's got a 1-year home warranty on it and all this kind of stuff, and the builder was really a nice guy, and he's really got nice people, so why would somebody spend $400 or $500 on a home inspection?
Right, exactly. So, every house built is built by a human.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right. So, and on top of that, you have many contractors in and out periodically throughout the build. Mm-hmm. Plumber comes in, plumbing's not ready to go in yet. Okay. Next day he comes in, the rough end's ready to go, but nothing's hooked up yet. And then he comes in the third day and he finally hooks in all the plumbing up, but forgets something. So a week ago, we had a brand new construction, a $500,000 house, a big house, and we had the garden tub just draining into the crawl space, and this crawl space was encapsulated.
Wow!
So if it's encapsulated, the water can't go anywhere.
Right.
So that exactly.
So it's almost indoor plumbing or indoor pool there. Almost,
exactly. If they haven't had any home inspection, then we would never know that.
No, it could take a long time for that to show up. Well, I remember not too long ago, about maybe 6 months ago, you inspected a brand new one, the $750,000 home, and when I stated in front of the builder, the actual on-site builder, and I'm not talking down on builders whatsoever, I promise you that, but the builder said, this we've been under this home, it doesn't need anybody else looking at it, and you got under it the next day and found a leak had been taking place underneath that downstairs toilet to enough that they actually had to pull that hardwood back out of that bathroom.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that they had to do that, but I remember that leak actually. Yeah.
Well, I bought a new construction house and didn't get it inspected and closed on it, and I had one of those gas fireplaces, and no big deal. We never used it ever, but eventually was ready to sell it or get close to selling, and maybe we tried it just to see what would, with the ambiance or whatever, and it wasn't working, and we went underneath. It was never even hooked up, it was just the gas line was just hanging there, so little, like you said, meaning they meant well. They started, they just never completed, the full task. They're there. Humans. So, little things like that for sure. So
back to the new homes, the situation. So one thing also that it's important that folks understand that if you choose not to do a home inspection, whatever you end up with, let's say 5 years down the road, it's going to be your problem now, not the builders. Most builders aren't going to come back 5 years later and listen to you say, hey, this had to be a problem back then because obviously nobody's been under the house since then, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's also a challenge getting them out within that year period of that warranty that they have. On top of the warranty is limited. They're not going to worry about the floor, like the issue you had after that 1 year, or within that 1 year, like, hey, we have a leak now. They're going to push back and be like, you probably knew about this, or this is your issue now, and it's beyond the scope of the limitations or what we can do for this warranty.
Right.
And depending on, there's so many great builders out there, but not all of them own their own subs, right? So they have to contract those out. And so that's probably the type of builders that you're working with, ones that actually own their own subs and have constant inspections and things.
No,
you're probably
I'll tell you what, there's a big difference in those builders. I love those builders, but so many of them don't have that. And the right arm doesn't know what the left one is doing in so many cases. And what I recommend here, ideally in the perfect world, maybe you'll change my mind here, Anthony, but in the perfect situation, if you're buying a brand new home, the perfect time to get it done is, of course, is through construction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and let's talk about that for a minute. How many times prior to the home being finished do you recommend going out there?
Absolutely. If you're building your own home, the contract's already done. As far as the building process to begin,
Yeah.
you guys break ground. We'll come out and we'll inspect the slab or the foundation before they even start building.
Awesome.
And then
Oh, wow.
once we get that inspected, they'll go through their next process. City or county code come out. They'll do their whole thing, and then we'll come back and do a frame review before they go ahead with the installation and stuff. And the frame review will also cover electrical wiring, plumbing issues, and there have been many times in a frame review we found of plumbing incorrectly pitched. So you'd have a slow drain in the future, things like that. So I would actually say frame inspection is just as important as a final inspection.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So normally we don't see that. So that's a unique something that you offer. Is that maybe a different ticket item, where you hold the hand throughout the whole build, or is that something that's normal on all of your new
It just
constructions?
depends on the buyer. Really.
Okay.
Some buyers are like, look, I need you to be here this date, and that date. I'm not going to be there. Do your thing. And you have others who are just like, I'm going to be there every step of the way. So it really just depends.
Okay. Well,
So
very good.
do you offer a package?
We do. We
Okay,
do.
it's from beginning to end.
Yes, absolutely. If you get the whole package, it steadily reduces as it goes. You're going to pay there's a certain price for for the footer or the foundation based on square footage, and then from the frame inspection going forward is discounted each step.
I got you.
Yep.
I got you. I don't think it can be overstated how important that process is. And a lot of times it's amazing to people when they buy a $500,000 home, build a $500,000 home, but they don't want to spend $500 on making sure it's
Right.
been built correctly. It makes
Right.
no sense at all.
And with the government types of loans in the loan package, we do have them sign a document that does state that it's in your best interest to get a home inspection. So whether it is a resale or, a new construction home. So we try to remind them of the importance of that for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so we have a lot to talk about here with
Great topic.
Mr. Home Inspector here, Anthony. We're so excited to have you part of our group here. Hey, so we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to continue our discussion, all things home inspections. You've been listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WT and the Talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here, Realty One Group Music City's owner and broker.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
We are making this show all about home inspections, Carey
Yes,
Ann.
and we have
Great
Anthony
information.
with us
Great
here.
information.
So good, so good. Anthony with Mr. Home Inspector is with us.
Anthony, before we go too far, can you tell us, how do we get a hold of you? How do the listeners find you and say, hey man, I want you to come do my home inspection?
Sure, you can find us on Facebook, just a hashtag Mr. Home Inspector TN. You can simply Google search us, MrHomeInspectorTN.com, or we're on Facebook, we're on Google. You can shoot me an email, Anthony at MrHomeInspectorTN.com, or simply call the office 615-768-0967.
Can you say that number one more time?
Yes, 615-768-0967.
Awesome.
7.
Awesome.
All right. Love it. So, Anthony, here's a big question for you.
Sure.
So, what qualifies you to inspect homes?
Many things, but we are licensed.
Yeah.
I've been doing this profession for quite a while now, even before it was a licensing program here in the state of Tennessee.
Okay.
Back in the day, Carey, I don't know if you remember this or not, but all you had to do was put a pencil behind your ear, carry
Okay.
a clipboard,
Oh.
do all that at one time, and you are now a bona
That's
fide
right.
home inspector.
That's
Wow.
right.
We were talking a previous show with an appraiser, right? And so
Right.
he was going through all of the steps to get licensed, from that in that field. How lengthy is the approval process to get licensed,
The time frame is based on your ability to pass all the exams.
Okay.
So as with the appraiser, there are steps.
Sure. You don't have to
go through.
study
Yes.
underneath someone or anything.
But in order to pass the test, it
Yeah.
takes some knowledge. You can't walk in there and wing it. It takes some dedicated knowledge.
Yeah, well, very good. Well, you have raving reviews, so we're happy and excited to have you part of our show tonight.
So before we go on to another segment of the inspection process or whatever, let's go back and talk a little bit more about that new construction, because I really think
Yes.
that's really, really, really an important topic for the consumer and for the realtor, because I've seen so many times where the realtor maybe isn't really convinced themselves of the need, and maybe that's from a lack of experience, maybe, I don't know, but the point is, is that it's just an observation, is that I've seen, as Carey Ann mentioned earlier, these, and as you mentioned, Anthony, these homes were built by human beings. Human beings can make mistakes, especially when over the last few years, there's been a pressure put on those each one of those subs trying to get that home completed real quicker, because they haven't been able to keep good help in some cases, all that kind of stuff going on out there. And I can tell you just a couple of real quick ones. I mentioned the leaky toilet underneath a brand home. One time I remembered arguing with the builder, again, this was years ago, that I wanted to get a home inspection done on the property. And he said, oh, no, nobody needs to do that. Well, we did finally get an inspector underneath the home, and somebody had completely cut out a floor joist and probably at least a 2 foot, 3 foot wide section to run that ductwork under, which is not uncommon.
Right.
And they don't think because there's not a problem right now that there's going to be a problem to develop.
Right.
But it's that wear and tear on the house.
Right.
I'm sure you've seen that before.
All the time. And also, sometimes you get these contractors who don't want nobody even on their property. And if they do finally agree to let an inspector in, oftentimes you have to show proof of being licensed, being insured, and you have to go through hoops and jumps just to make sure that they let you on the property.
Oh.
So that's a big ordeal, actually, in new construction.
But in their defense, though, remember, back in the day, like we just talked about, you used to have just carry a pencil behind your ear and carry a clipboard. And so as a builder, an experienced builder, why in the heck would I want you to tell me, if that's all your credentials are, if that's all you had to do, why would you? How could you tell me? Because you read something out of a book that I need to rebuild my home or do something differently. I understand, and that's the background that you're trying to overcome in many cases in some minds.
Right, and a lot of times you're absolutely correct. A builder automatically thinks he's more knowledgeable, or he's more skilled than your average Joe.
He or she.
They're more skilled than your average inspector, and we don't work for the builder. We can care less about what the builder thinks.
Yeah.
We work on the behalf of the buyer. And we don't work at all for the agents. It's all about the buyer's perspective. And if your agent isn't about the buyer, then maybe it's not a good fit. But our job is to make sure the buyer is putting their money on a piece of property that's going to be an investment.
Right.
Anytime you're spending $500,000 on a house, I don't care who you are, it's an investment.
Right.
And just like buying a used car, if you're spending $70,000 on a Jaguar, you're going to take that car to a mechanic before you sign that dotted line.
Right.
You can lift the hood, and you can have a mechanic look at that car. And we're basically doing the same thing, new or old.
Right. And I've seen that there's been challenges again through this whole pressure thing. I think that a few years down the road, we're probably going to see maybe some repercussions of those homes, that certainly the ones that weren't inspected, just because not that long ago there was, all the builders were a month behind. But you can imagine the domino effect of, okay, the builder is behind, so the future homeowner can't get in the home, so they're having to camp out at grandma's house or do something. And so many times, and I've seen it myself, where the buyer just said, I don't care about a home inspection. I care about getting into my family and getting settled.
Right.
And so there was a lot of things, I think, in the past overlooked. And again, it's, that's why it's so crucial. One of the reasons why it's so crucial to build with a good builder who has that solid reputation, who has especially those in-house vendors that can work together. So many times they come. I saw one time they put the drywall up before the electrician had been there, because they were scheduled to do so.
Sure.
And made that electrician cut through that mess. There's no cooperation from one to the other there.
Right.
So all those kind of reasons why to bring you in there in the process.
So kind of thinking through it as an agent, Monte, and you've got your contract. I know that there's time frames, right, of when you need the inspection done, right? Is that how we operate?
Yeah, typically 10 to 14 days, something like that. So
can I say, within the next 14 days on a rainy day, because I want to know if there's going to be any leaks in that house,
Right.
As a buyer, can I be specific on that?
Probably not that specific, but whenever I'm showing homes in the rain, I always say it's a good time to look at your house.
Right.
I know, because the reason why I say that is I got my house inspected, and let's kind of start here. How does the price work? Is it per square foot, per time? How does that work?
There's many factors. The most common is by square foot.
Okay.
We use by square foot, age, is it on a crawl space or a slab, those kind of things.
Okay. So I remember paying a very hefty bill for the inspection. And again, I do mortgages. I do mortgages day in and day out. That is what I do. That is my profession. That is my expertise, right? So I assume, as a home inspector, you're they're going to show me and tell me all the things that are right or wrong with my home. And so everything was moving along nicely until right after we moved in, there was the rainstorm that came from the opposite side, right? And I woke up to it raining in 3 rooms.
Oh, no.
Literally in 3 rooms, okay? And the flashing was going on the whole back side of the house. So the rooms, I mean, we have garage doors in the back, just pouring water. I mean, it literally the world was coming to an end and the water was just seeping in everywhere because it was a big, hefty rain, And I'm thinking if only that inspection was done during the rain, we would have probably caught that. And oh, by the way, that beautiful looking textured ceiling, now I'm thinking is on purpose. No, I think it's on purpose. Because I wonder if that leak was there prior and they put some beautiful, wood paneling on the roof there and put a design, and it just looks very rustic and, hip, right? And so not to say that was the case, but I'm like, seriously, how is it raining through, this? But is flashing one that you check? Or?
Absolutely. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I have another inspector who works with us, and he's very particular about his gaps and loose trim, loose flashing.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because you kind of have to find that balance of what is too much to put on a report and what does the buyer really need to know.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So in the flashing, gaps, trim, windows, gaps around the windows, especially new construction, high priority for us.
I mean, if it was on our report, knowing my other half, that would have been a trigger. He has a background in new construction. He would have, would have seen that, right? So, and again, I know that we'll go into it probably later about, the ramifications if you didn't reference and there was something wrong, or, what can I come back to you and you can kind of go through that. But we'll talk more, about that a little later. And I'm excited to talk about windows because that's my next issue that I have.
She's had some challenges with windows that I'm interested to hear what your take on
if
that
you
is.
really look at windows. So, hey, it's just been so fun having you on the show tonight. We're learning a lot about inspections. Thank you so much, Anthony. Hey, so we're going to take a quick break. You've been listening to the Talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the Talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here, broker owner of Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team. And we're back.
We are back, and remember, everybody, if you have questions, and our this show depends so much on your questions, send those questions into questions@talkmusiccity.com or hashtag talkmusiccity. That's questions@talkmusiccity.com. First of all, please understand, there's no question about real estate that we don't want to answer here for you. We want to take away the mystery we want to show you behind the veil of the real estate transaction. In this case, it's all about home inspections.
Yes.
We're excited about having Mr. Anthony Clemens of Mr. Home Inspector here today.
Yes,
Anthony,
we are. We're learning so much.
Thank you.
So let's talk about windows.
Let's talk about windows.
That is a hot topic because mine are now warped, and I didn't even understand what a warped window was. And so, is windows on your list?
Did that cost extra? I don't think I've ever seen warped windows before.
I should bring pictures. Can we show pictures? No, this is a radio show, but it would be surprising. So tell me about windows. Is that on your inspection list?
Yes, absolutely.
Because when you buy a house, it's usually behind the drapes, right? And behind the blinds, and you're like, oh, there's some shutters and those drapes are so pretty.
Right.
I just would never have thought to look at the windows or the windowsill.
Right.
So what we realized was the front of the house is where the sun is. Well, the builder had a designer encourage them to build this house, right? So the designer led the build of the home versus the builder. So the designer said that these windows should be painted, and they should be painted a dark gray to match the home. Da, 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 da.
So it absorbs the heat.
So absorbs the heat. And then that particular window just started warping.
Okay.
I mean, and now I think I have a plant or two. Who needs a planter when you have a warped window?
The plants are growing out of your window?
Yeah, no, like inside the home. I walked upstairs to get my daughter, and I was like, is that a mushroom? What is happening? This is not good. So it was kind of scary because windows cost a lot for the average person, to replace one window and do it the right way.
Right.
And then, oh, by the way, it's not part of your warranty because you can't paint the window again. And oh, by the way, white windows with the look of the feel in the home that we live in would not go, right? Because that's not the design of the home. So now what do we do? So that's the struggle. So tell me about windows.
Is it a vinyl window or is it wood?
I think it's the vinyl.
The vinyl's warped, right?
Yeah.
And it's facing the sun?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I know. I can't change the way the sun's.
So also,
Can you just kind of shift your house?
also, the mushroom ordeal. Have you checked for moisture below that window?
Well, it's clearly that's why, right?
Mushrooms
because
have to
it's
have moisture,
warped.
is what you're trying to say?
Yeah, but it's warped, so the rain is coming in. So we're
Right.
gonna have a bigger problem in the long run, right? So I just stare at it like it's gonna go away, but I probably should get
Are
it
those
fixed.
edible mushrooms? Maybe just
No, they're not. So oftentimes a new construction house, windows are a big issue because they're installed by third-party vendors.
Right.
They're trying to get the house closed in. They get out there and knock it out real fast. Oftentimes the flashing or the seal below that window isn't securely installed on the stud. Actually, if you go to our Facebook page, you'll see a couple videos of me explaining how that actually works.
Oh wow, okay.
So that's a big issue in most new constructions in many neighborhoods around Nashville.
Yeah.
Well, we had another house that we were going to live in, and we flipped it, and that was one thing that we fixed. Doing it the right way,
Right.
and that's the thing that's so frustrating. Sometimes doing things the right way costs so much money.
They do.
And so it's just frustrating. But is Windows on the list? So you look at those. So you lift them up, down, because my thought process is if someone really opened that window, they would have realized it didn't close
can't move it,
correctly,
yeah.
right? Because there was some sort of
A movement.
because it was a 3-year-old home, so it was a resale home. That was a builder's home, right? So he built it for himself, but it couldn't have just warped in 6 months, from the time of that we purchased it.
It could have. Think about this. The house is brand new. Wood is all organic, okay? So you take a bunch of wood, you stack it on top of each other. And then you cut out a little frame and you put a little window in there. Eventually, that wood's going to move, okay? It's going to shrink, it's going to expand a little bit, okay? And then that window is pressurized. So sometimes you also get broken windows in new construction. That's because that pressurization is too much for that window to bear.
Oh.
So sometimes you get a broken window or a broken thermal seal, a warped one. Or sometimes they don't open. They're very, very difficult to open. That's why.
So let's back up just a second here and say, can you paint a window? Is that just because of a heat addition that caused that in this case? Or
Well, that particular window.
I don't know if I've ever seen windows other than white, probably for a reason.
Well, the windows usually come colored if you want a colored window. I would never recommend painting a vinyl window.
Okay.
Yeah, well, clearly not anymore.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way. And I'm thinking because clearly we have to change out the windows, but maybe to a wood window is
Right.
what we're, maybe thinking about. But that kind of just leads us into what is on the list for you when you go see a home.
Right.
Where do you start? Do you start, top, bottom, top? How does it work?
We start on the outside first, then
Okay.
we work our way inwards, and we start on the highest floor possible, and then work our way all the way down. And the whole goal is to, if you start with the plumbing on the third floor, you plumbing on the second, and then you finally get into the crawl space, and it gives you an opportunity to find leaks and other deficiencies.
I gotcha.
But we're essentially looking at all the mechanics of the property. How's the HVAC look? How's the electrical? How's the plumbing? Is it draining correctly? Are there pitches correct in all the plumbing drainage lines? What's the life expectancy of a water heater? All those things play a factor.
Okay. So roof. So you're going to check
Absolutely.
the age
Do you
of
get on the roof or just
We
look
have-
at it with binoculars?
Yeah, we get on the roof if it's possible.
Okay.
All times.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Wow. And so, you reference windows, then you're in the crawl space.
Absolutely.
Right. And so what about chimneys? Is that something that you look at?
So we will look at a chimney, but Tennessee does not allow us to technically operate a gas fireplace,
Okay.
obviously. And you can't test wood unless you have wood and
Sure.
owner's permission.
So with that, then I would hire a chimney inspector
Right.
per se. Okay, a separate inspector.
We're going
for
to
that.
look at the flue if possible, and then we're going to recommend either it being serviced before the close of escrow or before you continue use of it.
Okay.
So do you ever recommend the specialist? I mean, you can't be a specialist in everything, I'm assuming.
Right.
You know a lot about a lot of things, but if you saw a roof that was looking marginal or a or a chimney that was looking questionable, would you bring in a specialist to look at those closer, or how would you handle that?
A chimney or a roof?
Either one.
Either one. I think it really just depends on the chimney or roof.
Okay.
A chimney or a roof is pretty straightforward. What's the age of the shingle? What's the shingle quality?
But they're not going to. But my point, I guess, Anthony, is they're maybe not going to believe your summary of the condition of that roof, but you need somebody that at least has the confidence of the consumer that that person's word means something.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. If any buyer would ever felt like that, I would definitely recommend pushing it out to a specialist. But if there's any deficiencies with the roof, anyways, it's being pushed out to the specialist. And really, we want another specialist, somebody else to put their eyes on it too.
Right. It's for everybody's benefit.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you don't see cracks on the foundation or anything like that, right? However, you kind of see...
He does see cracks.
Yeah, but let's just say you don't see cracks, right? But you see like a house, and you're like, you try to straighten your head and you kind of see like it's angled a little bit. Is that clearly settled in one area? It just hasn't cracked yet. So are you calling in a specialist at that point?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's
I've
not
had
just
that
for
age-wise, on some of the houses.
Yeah, well, you don't want. It's not so much saving my behind as much as it is for the buyer. You don't want the buyer to buy a house that, it's not level. So oftentimes you can look at the ridge line of a roof and tell if the house has structural problems.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. What are some other things that are some big issues that you see that we never really kind of pick up on?
HVAC.
Ooh, okay.
So HVAC, they're unforgotten majority of the time. But the only time you really need the HVAC to work is when you need it, right? So if you're in there pressing the thermostat, you want it to be cooler, and you're just not getting cooler. That's the only time you think about that HVAC unit. So HVAC oftentimes goes either unserviced or just forgot about entirely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was another issue. And then
this home was 3 years old, right?
I'm not kidding you. And so it was in the master bedroom, and then the air just kept going off, and it kept like just falling apart, and had to get lead company out there. Mm-hmm. And it was just interesting. I mean, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. It just starts to catch up to you, know. But again, would I have made, like you said, the love goggles, and they were thick. I mean, I was in love with this house, right?
You've not seen her house, have you?
I've not.
Have you ever seen an antler chandelier?
Yes.
I mean, a big one?
Yeah.
With like real antlers on it? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, this one's one of the coolest antler chandeliers I've ever seen.
It's great. However, by the time I'm telling you all this, you're probably like, but yeah, we'll forego the antler chandelier and get you a different house at this point, But you just don't realize, would I've made the decision not to have bought it if you really told me everything, and this seller was very prideful builder, right? So very prideful. So there was no fixing anything, mm-hmm. I was going to have to take the house anyways, the way that it was listed there. But AC went up.
Yeah,
fun. I think that sometimes happens, right?
A lot also depends, and I'm not going to throw out any brands, but there are some brands that are just not as good as others.
Sure.
So when a builder, and again, he could have all the pride in the world about his house, but he's going to take sometimes they're going to take the least expensive option.
Sure.
They're going to buy the builder grade shingle, the builder grade HVAC system, and water heater, just because they're trying to pinch money anywhere they can. Yeah.
Well, depending on the price point too, sometimes your margins increase when you get over a certain threshold, right? So certain things do get pinched a little bit more, which is sad.
Talking about HVAC, I was one time, again, arguing with a builder one time to get a home inspection done. And again, we're not slamming builders whatsoever. There's some awesome builders out there.
Oh, yeah.
But one time, the inspector found that the HVAC was actually cycling in reverse.
Oh, goodness.
It was sucking in all the,
Oh, good air. Bad air?
Whatchamacallit? All the vents. Okay, it was sucking in the vents and blowing out the return air.
Oh.
It was totally
That is
reverse.
awesome. That is absolutely.
It was backwards. Oh, my gosh.
It was backwards.
Oh, Lord.
Brand new house. Brand spanking new house.
Hey, sometimes things get twisted there. That makes it
Another reminder, though, folks, if you're thinking about building a house or buying a brand new home, make sure that either Anthony Clemens from Mr. Home Inspector inspects it, or someone that is qualified to get a great job done. Make sure that you made a good investment.
Yes. Hey, so we're going to take a quick break. That's a break, not a bake. If I baked cookies, that maybe next time, but it's Cinco de Mayo. So what would I bake? Nope, nothing. When we come back, though, we are going to be talking and continue the conversation with Anthony with Mr. Home Inspector. But we're going to be talking about, should I test for mold, termites, air quality, or radon? That's a great topic.
It's a really relevant question.
I really should stick to mortgages. Maybe not so much radio. Hey, we'll see you here soon. You've been listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here, broker-owner of Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team. And welcome back. We've been talking with Anthony, with Mr. Home Inspector. Thank you so much, Anthony, for being here. Yes, good stuff. Hey, so if you ever need a home inspector, he is one to call. He's very talented and licensed and doing an amazing job with raving reviews. You can reach him at 615-768-0967. That's 768-0967. So we are going to continue this talk.
Thanks again for being here, Anthony. It's awesome to see you. I wish everybody else could see your beard. It's a worthy to dial in to this podcast just for that reason.
It's for my knowledge.
Yes.
Is that what
That's
it is?
where it comes from.
Yeah, just pure knowledge just makes your. Do you ever does it ever get in your way when you're underneath a house?
No, but sometimes it does sweat, and it's kind of yeah.
Oh, that's too funny.
This segment we want to cover is a really important one that a lot of people don't think about, and that is: should I test for mold, termites, air quality, or radon? So each topic is totally different. So let's first of all hit termites. I think for convenience sake, you actually have partnered with another company to go ahead and make it easy to go ahead and get those termites checked out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can call us and you can schedule a home inspection and a termite all in one.
Oh, great. That's wonderful.
That's very convenient. And I highly recommend, again, not everybody needs or thinks they need to get a termite inspection, but that's always a good idea. We live in the South, and termites especially like southern wood, I guess. I'm not sure.
Right.
Yes, and we were talking just last week, I think it was, about those buzzing bees, those carpenter bees. So you're looking for those too during that termite inspection?
They do, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that will pass sometimes or fail, as you once found out here shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's good. Okay, so let's talk about mold. Ooh, the bad word. Mold.
Is that an overused term?
It is. You're in Tennessee. Sometimes mold is kind of an aggressive word. Oftentimes you have fungal growth, which is pretty common with the amount of humidity we have, and the air quality sometimes isn't the best here in Tennessee. Right. And so you get some fungal growth growing on your floor joists, or sometimes on the side of the houses. Or
I was talking to a builder 2 days ago, and he said that sometimes that fungal growth is on the wood when it gets delivered to the job site.
Sometimes. Yep.
But lenders, we don't like those words.
Fungal growth?
Or mold, right?
Mold.
So, I mean, the word mold is like...
Fungi? Do you like fungi?
But that's a big thing, that they're looking for health and safety. And so whether it's just minor or not, mold, they're probably going to throw the red flag.
So let me ask you this, Carey Ann, on the topic. I know since you've got fungi growing out of your window, called a mushroom. Would you have financed this house if you'd known there was fungi growing out of your window?
No.
Probably wouldn't have bought it, maybe.
No, I would have taken the love goggles off for sure, sure. But again, double checking on the mold, and some things that you kind of notice where we see, and we actually see pictures, which is interesting that the buyer doesn't see it, but there's black. It looks like black, paint, just kind of sliding down or whatever, which is the spores. Yeah. So anything black on a wall, if it's not paint, is not a good sign.
So let's let the expert talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just see black, spores on wall equal mold equals bad equals don't get loaned.
I'm just kidding. So when you do see some underneath the house, is there a particular kind? Are you making any judgment call on that mold, or are you waiting to get the report back?
It really just depends, but a judgment call generally is going to end with this should be taken care of. And what's interesting is a termite contractor will tell you the same thing. So anybody on the crawl space that's licensed or has any knowledge is going to say the same thing. I will tell you though, the indoor quality is probably where I would have the biggest issue with. Sometimes in the crawl space, most crawl space,
indoor air quality
when it comes to mold, if you will,
right,
or mold testing. It's not what you can see; it's what you can't see.
Right.
That's why I ask those questions, because if you have fungi growing from your window, imagine what you can't see. And so also you can't see it. Sometimes you can't even smell it. And then you have your HVAC system circulating it. So you really want to
Is that why I'm getting shorter? Why I have to wear heels? I mean, it could cause some damage, right? We don't want that, right? Or respiratory issues for sure. My mom's got asthma. That's not a good thing at all.
Allergy problems. Any sort of allergy problems, for sure.
Not good. So
when you do, can we talk about that for a second, Carey Ann?
Yeah.
On the air quality. So how do you go in there and just kind of encapsulate a little bit of air and send it in? How do you do that?
So that is the
I just
standard.
You can't see us, but it's like a bug trap, catching the air.
It's a cassette.
You suck something into something? Or what
We do a couple different methods. I really kind of go past that because that's so standard. You get a baseline reading in your cassette outside, which is the thing that the sample cassette that you draw the air in, right?
Yeah, okay.
And you get a sample on the inside. But we like to go, if you have an area that you feel like it has it's a smell associated with this area, we'll go there and we'll do an in-wall sample. We'll take the cover off electrical outlet and see if we can't wiggle a cord around and get us a sample there. We do a little bit more than just your basic air quality.
I got you. Okay, so I thought maybe I'd just suck it in, blow it in a balloon, and carry it out.
And then we send it off to the lab, and it takes about 2 days or so.
Now that would be an Instagram post for you. Anthony sucking in the air, blowing it in a balloon. Oh my goodness, Lord, too funny.
So the last one here on radon, I think this is one that we really got to pay attention to as well. I learned the hard way when Connie and I bought a house a couple years ago. The seller said, "Well, you don't need a radon test because we just had one done." And so then a year and a half later, life changed and we decided to sell this house. And the new buyers came to us and said, well, we're going to do a radon test. And we said, oh, you don't need to because there's just one done a year and a half ago. But they went ahead and got one done. And lo and behold, the radon was like off the charts.
Wow.
And so I said, okay, either we were lied to or what's the deal here? Well, then in a little further investigation, we had taken some dirt out of our crawl space.
Okay.
To add some extra square footage under, some storage and so forth, and we found out that by disrupting the earth like that with a jackhammer, it was quite a bit of pounding around going on there, that you do actually end up opening up some of the earth cavity there, and that's when the gas comes out, and that's part of the reason why I guess Nashville's got a little different level because of all the booming going on out there, all the jackhammers, all the construction happening. We're actually letting some out of the ground. Is that correct?
That is correct. Also, it's funny you say that because that's why I always recommend it on a new home. Because a new house has been, the dirt has been moved, disheveled, it has opened pockets.
Okay.
And then you take a house and you set it on the soil. Now you're pressurizing the soil below. So now you put the house on a pocket of radon. Now you're pressurizing the radon, which is naturally going to draw that radon upwards. So if you have a brand new house, testing for radon is really, really important for me. And so you can also get that added to the inspection at the time of the inspection.
Yeah.
So if you can do it, you should do it. And then if you're in a basement, if you're below ground, definitely always test for it. And really, radon, it changes from season to season, from day to day. For a more accurate reading, you should test it 3 times a year in each season, one time each season. And then you just average those 3 together.
That's good information because being a first-time home buyer back in the day, bought a new construction house, and there was something in the garage, and it was in my way, so I got it cut off, but it was a vent. I was like, this is ugly. What's this doing here?
Was that a radon vent?
It was the radon vent.
The radon pump,
Yeah, meaning, I'm like, it was basically just one of those...
PVC.
Yeah, PVC pipes,
with a blower.
But it was totally in my way. I needed to put a car there. Yeah, why would I need this? But, I think that's where sometimes, even with a first-time home buyer, we speak this language so freely and, to the new buyer purchasing. At the time, I didn't know. Is it harmful? I didn't know. It was just ugly. I was getting rid of that, know. So when we went to sell it, had to find a way to, mediate and do all that stuff at the time. So interesting things.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Anthony, it was
Learning
awesome having you here today. Before we get done here, can you share with us, I know that you actually have a discount for a certain group of folks. Can you talk about that for just a second?
Absolutely. Like Carey Ann said previously, I am prior military. So we offer an actual military discount to service members, first responders, police, teachers, etc.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely. If they're active duty, they automatically get half off.
Wow,
we give them the
love
option.
that.
Yes.
Isn't that awesome?
Half off and or free radon. So, and the same thing if a police officer is getting a home inspection, they don't get the whole half off, but they get about 25%, or the free radon testing, which the radon testing is a better quality, more for your money kind of thing. oftentimes people take the discount, which is fine. But yeah, we definitely offer that to our service members and our first responders.
Thank you for doing that. And real quickly, one more second, your email address is again so people can reach you is?
It's Anthony at MrHomeInspectorTN.com.
Okay, Anthony at MrInspectorTN.com.
That's it.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Fabulous
Hey,
having
it's
you
been
here.
great having you,
I
Anthony.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And also thank you for your service. We love serving those who have served. So
Amen.
thank you so much, Anthony. Hey, so thank you again for tuning in this Sunday evening on Cinco de Mayo. It's just been a lot of fun. I've learned some neat things here. So excited to see you back here next Sunday at 5 p.m. You've been listening to the Talk of Music City Real Estate.